The dare that started it all. I've always been the kind of person who laughs in the face of ghost stories, haunted houses, cursed dolls, creepy legends. None of it ever got under my skin. But that night, when my friends dared me to explore the old Dreamland amusement park, something deep inside told me this wouldn't be just another silly adventure. It was past midnight when the dare began. We were sitting around a dying campfire on the outskirts of town, surrounded by the soft hum of crickets and the occasional whoosh of passing cars. Someone mentioned Dreamland, the amusement park that had been shut down for almost 20 years after a tragic accident. According to local legends, during one summer night in 2005, a ride malfunctioned, killing several children. The park closed the very next morning, and no one ever reopened it. Since then, people claim to hear laughter echoing from the abandoned Ferris wheel, even when the wind was still. Bet you won't spend an hour inside. My friend Mark smirked, tossing me a flashlight. An hour, I scoffed, pretending to be fearless. I'll record the whole thing. The others laughed, half stirring, half warning me not to go through with it. But their laughter only fueled my pride. I wasn't about to back down. By 1 a.m., I was standing at the edge of the park's entrance. The massive iron gates loomed before me, chained shut with rusted metal links. The sign above, once glowing in bright carnival colors, was now faded and broken, its letters barely visible. Welcome to Dreamland. I pushed against the gate, and to my surprise, one side creaked open slightly. It felt like it had been waiting for me. I squeezed through the gap, my flashlight flickering as I stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was the smell of wood, mold, and something metallic, like dried blood. The ground was covered in fallen leaves and debris. Broken ticket booths stood in a row, their glass windows shattered. The wind howled through them like whispers. Every step I took echoed through the emptiness, the crunch of gravel under my boots mixing with the faint groan of rusted rides. I pointed my flashlight toward the carousel. The horses were still there, frozen mid-gallop, their paint peeling and eyes wide open, as if they'd seen something terrible. I brushed my hand against one of them, and its wooden head turned slightly on its own. I froze. Must be loose, I muttered to myself, trying to laugh it off, but my heartbeat quickened. Farther ahead stood the Ferris wheel toll, skeletal and silent against the moonlit sky. One of the carriages swayed gently, though there was no wind. My camera picked up a faint creak as the wheel groaned, shifting an inch. Okay, that's creepy, I whispered. I checked my phone. It was 1:13 a.m., only 13 minutes in. That's when I saw the ticket booth light flicker. It was faint, like an old bulb struggling to come alive. I turned my flashlight toward it, but it went dark again. My flashlight dimmed too, for just a second, long enough for me to feel something cold brush against my arm. I spun around. No one. I started recording, speaking into the camera to calm myself down. Alright guys, I'm in Dreamland. Place is totally deserted. Nothing spooky yet, except for maybe my imagination. As I spoke, something crackled in the distance. Music, the faint scratchy tune of an old carnival song playing from nowhere. I followed the sound, each note echoing off the crumbling rides. The music seemed to come from the direction of the carousel. When I returned to it, I froze. It was moving. The carousel was spinning slowly, creaking, its horses gliding past like ghosts in motion. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I took a step back. There was no power, no electricity for miles. Yet it turned, steady and rhythmic, to the tune that grew louder in my ears. And then, through the music, I heard it, laughter, high-pitched, childlike. I swung my light toward the sound, and for a brief second, I saw them, two small figures standing near the ride. Their outlines were faint, translucent. They looked like children, holding hands, watching me. My breath caught in my throat. The music stopped. The carousel froze mid-turn. The air turned cold, and the figures vanished as quickly as they appeared. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, my flashlight flickering again. I told myself it had to be a trick of the light, reflections anything but real. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I checked the time again, 1:27 a.m. Only 27 minutes had passed, and already, I wanted to leave. Still, something pulled me deeper into the park, a strange mix of fear and curiosity. Maybe it was the dare. Maybe it was the feeling that those kids wanted me to see something. Either way, as I looked toward the shadowy path that led to the Hall of Mirrors, I realized I was no longer just exploring an abandoned amusement park. I had stepped into something else, something alive. Entering the forgotten gates, the deeper I walked into Dreamland, the heavier the air became, thick with dust, moisture, and something unseen pressing against my chest. The park felt like a sleeping beast, waiting for someone foolish enough to wake it. My flashlight flickered over cracked pavement, rusted benches, and collapsed food stalls whose faded signs whispered memories of laughter long gone. Every step echoed. It was as if the place itself was listening. I passed what used to be a candy shop. The painted clowns on the wall were smiling, except the paint had cracked, twisting those smiles into grimaces. Their eyes, dark and hollow, seemed to follow me. I tried to focus on the rhythm of my footsteps, but underneath it, I heard something faint like whispering. "Hello," I called. My voice bounced back, warped. Then came a dragging sound, slow, uneven, like footsteps on gravel. I turned quickly. Nothing. The carousel stood still in the distance, its horses gleaming faintly in the moonlight as if frozen mid-gallop. I tried to laugh it off, but there was no wind, no reason for anything to move. Still, the silence around me felt too perfect, too deliberate. My phone vibrated suddenly, flashing battery critically low to 3% remaining. That couldn't be right. It was fully charged an hour ago. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it light flickering softly from the ticket booth at the park's center. I moved closer. Through the cracked glass, I saw what looked like a woman sitting inside, her head bent forward. "Ma'am," I said, my voice trembling, "are you okay?" She didn't move. A faint tune began playing a lullaby, like from an old music box. The woman's head twitched slightly, her hair falling across her face. My flashlight shook as I leaned closer. The chair was empty. The music stopped. Knock. The sharp sound came from behind me again. The turnstile beside the booth was rattling, its metal bars jerking as if someone invisible was trying to push through. Then, silence. Every instinct told me to run, but something stronger, curiosity or stupidity, made me keep walking. The main path led deeper into the park, past the skeletal remains of a roller coaster and a flooded bumper car arena that reflected the dim moonlight. Something moved across the water, quick, shadowy, but when I turned my flashlight, nothing was there. Then I heard laughter, high-pitched, mocking ahead. An archway covered in ivy came into view. The crooked sign above it read, "Hall of Mirrors." I froze. Everyone in town had heard stories about this place, the reflections that moved on their own. The clown who lost his mind after the accident. The door was half open, creaking slightly. I pushed it wider. The air inside was icy, heavy with the smell of rotten dust. My light skimmed over endless mirrors stretching into darkness. For a second I only saw my reflection, shaken but still me. Then it smiled, but I wasn't smiling. The reflection lifted its hand and waved. I stumbled back, heart hammering, and dropped my flashlight. When I picked it up again, the reflection was normal. Still, the air felt wrong, like someone was standing right behind me, and then I heard it. A whisper, so close it brushed my ear. "Welcome back to Dreamland." The door slammed shut. My flashlight flickered once, then went out. The carousel that still moves, darkness swallowed everything. For a few seconds I couldn't even hear my own breath. The silence inside the Hall of Mirrors was so thick it felt alive. I tapped my flashlight. Nothing. My phone was dead too. Then, faintly, somewhere outside, the carousel music began to play again. That same slow, eerie tune that didn't belong to any working ride. I felt my way toward the door, my hands brushing against cold mirrors that seemed to pulse beneath my touch. When my fingers finally found the doorknob, it wouldn't budge. I twisted harder. The metal was freezing, almost burning my skin. And then, with a loud creak, the door gave way. I stumbled outside, gasping for air like I'd surfaced from underwater. The park looked different now. Fog had rolled in, thick and heavy, cloaking everything. My flashlight suddenly flickered back on, glowing weakly. I aimed it toward the carousel and froze. It was spinning. The ride moved in slow, rhythmic circles, the horses rising and falling to that same haunting melody. But what made my stomach twist wasn't the movement, it was the lights. Dim bulbs around the ride were flickering, forming strange patterns, like Morse code. I stepped closer, drawn in by the sound. Each creak of the gears echoed through the fog like an old breath. Then I saw them, small shadows sitting on the horses. 2 children, a boy and a girl, their heads tilted slightly, their faces hidden in the blur of motion. "Hey," I called out, voice cracking, "you shouldn't be here." They didn't react. I circled the ride, trying to see them clearly, but as the carousel turned, the seats were empty again. The ride kept spinning, even though no one was on it. The music slowed, stretching unnaturally, like a broken record winding down. My light caught something carved into the central pillar of the ride, letters etched deep into the wood. "We never left." The words looked fresh. A sudden gust of wind pushed through, carrying faint giggles. I turned sharply. The fog shifted, revealing shapes, children darting between stalls, playing, laughing, but they weren't solid. Their outlines flickered like fading film. "Who are you?" I whispered. A small voice answered from behind me. "We used to live here." I spun around. A little girl stood by one of the carousel horses. Her eyes were pale and empty, her hands clutching a cracked balloon. Her voice was soft, but it echoed unnaturally, as if more than one person spoke at once. "They said the ride would never stop," she murmured, "but it did, and we stayed." Before I could move, she pointed toward the Ferris wheel behind me. "They want you to ride too." The carousel's music stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the sound. It felt like the whole park was holding its breath. Then, the Ferris wheel creaked loudly, one of its carriages rocking back and forth like it was calling me. When I looked back, the girl was gone. Only the balloon remained, lying deflated at my feet. The carousel had stopped spinning, every horse frozen mid-motion, all their heads turned toward me. And that's when I realized something chilling. The horse nearest to me, its carved wooden face, looked exactly like mine. Laughter in the dark the moment I saw that carousel horse with my face carved into it. Something inside me broke. My body stiffened, my breath came out shallow, and every nerve screamed at me to run. but my legs refused to move as if the air itself was holding me in place. The fog thickened, swirling around the carousel like smoke rising from the ground. I stepped backward slowly, unable to take my eyes off that wooden doppelganger. Its mouth was open slightly, as if frozen mid-scream, then snap. One of the carousel horses shifted, its head turned toward me with an audible crack of wood. Another followed and another. Within seconds, every horse on the ride was facing me. My flashlight flickered violently. The air filled with the faint sound of laughter, children's laughter, but it wasn't coming from one direction. It echoed from everywhere behind the stalls, inside the rides, even beneath the ground. High-pitched, playful, and horribly wrong. "Stop it," I shouted, spinning in circles, trying to see where it came from. The laughter stopped instantly. And then, a single voice whispered from the fog, "Why did you wake us up?" I froze. The voice was right next to my ear, so close that I felt the cold breath against my skin. I swung my flashlight toward it, nothing but mist. I backed away, nearly tripping over a piece of broken track from the roller coaster. My light swept across the park, landing on the Ferris wheel. It was moving again slowly, creaking as it rotated through the fog. One of the carriages stopped at the top, its silhouette visible against the moonlight. There was someone sitting inside. I couldn't see their face, but their arm was raised, waving slowly, almost mockingly. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst through my chest. The air turned bitterly cold. I could see my breath forming in front of me, each exhale trembling. The laughter returned, softer this time, weaving through the fog like a melody. I stumbled toward the nearest building, a small game store with a shattered sign that read, "Win a Smile." I ducked inside, desperate for a place to hide. Inside, everything was covered in dust and cobwebs. Stuffed toys hung from the ceiling, their button eyes staring blankly. I crouched behind the counter, trying to steady my breathing. Then, one of the toys fell. It landed in front of me with a dull thud, a clown doll. Its painted grin cracked down the middle. I picked it up slowly, hands trembling, its eyes rolled open. A hollow laugh came from its tiny speaker, broken and glitching. "Ha ha, come play." I threw it across the stall and backed away. My light flickered again, illuminating something written on the wall behind the counter. The letters were smeared in what looked like dried blood. They see through the mirrors. A shiver ran down my spine. Mirrors, the hall of mirrors. Suddenly, a metallic clink echoed from outside, the sound of the carousel chains rattling. Then, a voice, low, distorted, whispering my name, "Ethan." My knees nearly gave out. None of my friends had followed me. No one alive knew I was here. I took one shaky step toward the exit. The fog outside had turned darker, swirling unnaturally. I could make out faint shapes moving within it, small figures darting between rides. Their giggles grew louder, sharper, and then I saw her again, the little girl with the balloon. She stood just a few feet away, staring at me. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "What do you want?" I managed to whisper. She tilted her head slowly. "To play." The carousel behind her started spinning again, this time faster, its lights blazing red. The music warped into a nightmarish carnival tune. The fog churned violently, and I felt a sudden pull, like invisible hands grabbing me, dragging me toward the carousel. I fought against it, clawing at the ground, screaming, "Let me go." The laughter turned deafening. I could see them now, dozens of pale faces emerging from the fog, children all smiling, all watching, and over their laughter, I heard a deep, booming voice, the same one that had whispered before. "Dreamland never closes." Something yanked my leg. I fell hard, scraping my hands on the gravel. My flashlight spun out of reach, rolling until it pointed at the carousel. The horses weren't wooden anymore. Their eyes were alive, blinking, wet and filled with tears. Then the lights went out, and I was left alone, surrounded by the sound of children laughing in the dark. The hall of mirrors. When the lights went out, I ran. I didn't think, just ran. My shoes slammed against the cracked pavement as the echoes of laughter followed me like a storm. The fog clung to my face, thick and suffocating, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away from that carousel, from those eyes. I stumbled toward the one place I swore I'd never go back to, the hall of mirrors. The faint outline of its archway appeared through the fog like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. Every part of my mind screamed, "Don't go in there," but behind me I could hear the faint patter of tiny footsteps they were following. The door creaked open before I even touched it. Inside, the smell hit me first, old wood, damp fabric, and something else. Something metallic. I swept my flashlight around, its weak beam bouncing off dozens of mirrors. Each one reflected my light in 100 directions until it looked like I was surrounded by versions of myself, all breathing, all afraid. I took a slow step forward. My reflection did the same, except one didn't move. I froze. The reflection stood perfectly still while I lifted the flashlight. Its head tilted just a little, the way a predator studies prey. Then, slowly, it smiled. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a broken frame. The sound echoed unnaturally, bouncing through the maze as if someone else had fallen into pit. That's when I noticed some of the mirrors weren't reflecting me anymore. They showed other scenes, rides spinning, lights flashing, kids laughing. But those things weren't happening outside. They were happening inside the mirrors. My skin prickled. I reached out toward one, drawn by the moving images. A child appeared on the other side of the glass, a boy with hollow eyes and a wide grin. He pressed his palm against the mirror. Without thinking, I did the same. The glass was warm, and then his hand reached through. I screamed and fell backward, scraping my elbow against the floor. When I looked again, the mirror was still cracked but empty. My reflection was normal, except for the faint handprint on the other side of the glass. I turned to leave, but the entrance was gone. Every direction looked the same, a maze of mirrors stretching into infinity. "Ethan," whispered a voice, echoing all around me. "You woke them up." I spun in circles, flashlight trembling. The reflection behind me moved first. Its mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then it started pounding on the glass. One by one, the reflections followed suit, slamming their fists against the mirrors in unison. The sound was deafening: thud, 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 like a heartbeat. Cracks began to spider across the glass, spreading from every direction. My own reflection stared back, its eyes wide in terror. But then it did something I didn't eat, raised the flashlight to its head and smashed it against the mirror. The sound shattered the air. All the lights went out again. For a moment, I was floating in darkness, surrounded by faint giggles and whispers. Then I saw a faint glow, a head, soft golden light bleeding through a crack in the wall. Desperate, I crawled toward it. When I broke through, I fell into another part of the park. The fog had thinned slightly, and for a moment I could breathe again, but relief didn't last. Across the empty plaza stood the clown, the same one from the murals, from the stories. His painted grin stretched from ear to ear, but his eyes were hollow sockets dripping black tears. He lifted a gloved hand and waved. "Welcome to the show," he rasped. The lights of the park flickered back to life all at once, the ride spinning, the music blaring, every broken bulb suddenly glowing red. The laughter returned, filling the air like static. And as I stared at the clown standing motionless in the center of it all, I realized something horrifying. I wasn't trapped inside the mirrors anymore. The mirrors had spilled out. Dreamland was awake. The clown's revenge. He stood there under the blood-red glow of the carousel lights, tall and still, his painted grin cracked across his pale face. The clown's costume was tattered, one shoe missing, his gloves smeared with something dark. Even from where I stood, I could hear the faint jingle of bells from his collar as the fog swirled around his feet. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. My legs felt glued to the ground as he tilted his head, the grin widening unnaturally. "Don't you like the park?" His voice was sharp and echoing, almost playful but soaked in menace. "You came for fun, didn't you?" My throat went dry. I tried to speak, but the words stuck. He stepped closer. With every movement, the lights around us flickered and the rides creaked to life, the Ferris wheel turning, the roller coaster chains rattling, the carousel beginning its slow spin. "I used to make them laugh," he said softly, almost to himself, "every night, until the fire. Until they left me behind." I remembered the stories, then the clown performer who lost his wife and daughter in the accident, who was found days later, hanging from the carousel by his own costume string. You're him," I whispered. His smile twitched. I was. The words came out low and broken, like a growl. He lifted his arm and I saw burn marks up his wrist. The skin blackened and cracked. They promised we'd all laugh forever, and now he snapped his fingers. The air trembled. All around me, the laughter of children erupted again, louder, sharper, no longer innocent. Figures began emerging from the fog, dozens of them, ghostly outlines of kids, their faces pale and eyes hollow, circling the clown like obedient puppets. "Don't you want to smile too?" he asked, his tone mocking. He stretched out his hand toward me. The children began chanting softly, a haunting sing-song rhythm. "Round and round the laughter goes. Dreamland keeps what Dreamland knows." I backed away, shaking. My flashlight flickered wildly. Behind me, the carousel spun faster, its horses rising and falling violently as if alive. One of them broke free, flying off the ride and crashing into a booth, splintering into pieces. The clown's grin widened. "You woke us up, Ethan. Now you'll stay to keep the fun alive." "I didn't mean to." "Neither did I," he interrupted. His voice cracked into a shriek. "But they left me to burn." The children screamed in unison, a sound so piercing I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. My vision blurred. The fog pulsed around me like a heartbeat, and for a moment, I saw flashes, burning rides, screaming families, the clown dragging himself through the flames, holding a child in his arms that turned to ash. Then the world snapped back to now. He was standing right in front of me, towering over me. His painted tears dripped down like ink. "You'll fit right in," he whispered, leaning close. I could smell the rot on his breath. "We'll carve your smile next." He raised his gloved hand, and in it, I saw something glinting, a jagged piece of mirror. I scrambled backward, my hand hitting something metallic, the pole of a broken sign. Instinct took over. As he lunged forward, I swung the pole as hard as I could. It connected with his side, the sound like cracking glass. He stumbled back, shrieking, not in pain, but in laughter. The sound echoed, multiplied, spreading through the entire park. Every ride seemed to mimic its Ferris wheels screeching, the carousel howling, the roller coaster roaring like metal laughter. I ran. I didn't look back. The fog was alive now, twisting and grabbing at me, the children's faces appearing and vanishing within it. As I sprinted down the cracked path, I heard his voice one last time, booming through the park like thunder. "You can run, Ethan, but Dreamland always finds its way home." And in the distance behind me, the clown's laughter followed, growing louder, closer, endless. Running from the shadows, I ran blindly through the maze of shattered rides and overgrown pathways, the laughter chasing me like a storm. It echoed off the crumbling walls, bouncing from every direction until I couldn't tell where it came from or if it was inside my head. My flashlight flickered, dying with each step. I could barely see more than a few feet ahead, just the faint glimmer of metal and the twisting silhouettes of the rides. The air felt thick, charged, as though the whole park was breathing. "Keep moving," I whispered to myself. "Just keep moving." Something darted past me on the right, a blur of motion, followed by the soft sound of giggling. I swung the light toward it, but there was nothing, just a deflated balloon drifting across the cracked pavement, its string dragging behind like a snake. Then, a whisper, "Ethan." I froze. The voice was faint but unmistakable. It wasn't the clown this time, it sounded familiar. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No answer, only the soft rustle of leaves, and then again, "Ethan, this way." A dim light appeared ahead, flickering behind a row of food stalls. Against every rational thought, I followed it. It led me to what used to be the Dreamland arcade. The neon sign above the door still blinked faintly, half the letters missing, so it read only DEAD. My heart pounded. I pushed the door open. It groaned in protest, and the faint smell of mildew and burnt plastic hit me like a wave. Inside, arcade machines stood like silent sentinels, their screens cracked, their music long dead. But as I stepped in, one machine flickered to life, an old claw machine near the center. Inside it, hanging from the claw, was a single doll, a clown doll. My stomach twisted. The light inside the machine pulsed brighter, casting shadows that danced across the walls. And then I saw her, a woman, standing near the back of the arcade, just within the light. She was dressed in what looked like an old park uniform, her face pale, her eyes wide with sorrow. Who are you?" I whispered. She didn't answer. Instead, she raised her arm and pointed toward the back door. "Go," she said softly. Her voice was faint, trembling. "Before he finds you." But I already knew the answer. The floorboards creaked behind me. I turned, and through the broken glass of the front door, I saw him, the clown, walking slowly through the fog, the bells on his collar jingling with every step. His laughter was softer now, almost patient. I turned back to the woman, but she was gone, vanished like smoke. The claw machine behind me buzzed, and the glass shattered outward, showering me with shards. The doll fell to the floor, its painted smile splitting down the middle. And from somewhere deep within the arcade, that music started again, the carnival tune that had followed me since I entered this cursed place. I bolted toward the back door, kicking it open. Cold night air rushed in, thick with fog. I stumbled into an open courtyard, the main plaza of Dreamland. It was worse than before. Every ride was moving now. The Ferris wheel spun fast enough to blur. The carousel's lights flashed red and white like sirens. The roller coaster roared to life, even though no one was aboard. And all around me, shadows, human shapes, dozens of them, circling me in the mist. They whispered, sang, and laughed in a distorted chorus that made my skin crawl. I tried to run through them, but their cold hands brushed against me, leaving trails of frost across my arms. Then I saw him, Argonaut, at the center of the plaza, the clown, standing beneath the carousel lights, smiling that same broken smile. "You can't leave, Ethan," he said softly. "You woke Dreamland. Now it's your turn to perform." He clapped his hands. Once in, the shadows lunged. I swung my flashlight wildly, its dying beam slicing through fog and faces that weren't real. I fell backward, hitting the ground hard. My phone, my last light source, slid across the pavement. As I reached for it, the shadows froze. The clown's smile faded. His gaze shifted to something behind me. I turned. There, through the fog, a new light was glowing, a faint blue shimmer near the roller coaster. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and deep down I knew it was calling me. Not from this world, but from the truth behind it all. The final ride, that faint blue light shimmered like a mirage through the fog, cutting through the chaos of Dreamland. Every instinct in me screamed to run the other way, but something deeper, curiosity, desperation, maybe madness, pulled me toward it. The clown's voice echoed behind me, taunting and distant. "You can't escape the show, Ethan, no one ever does." I ignored him and ran. My boots pounded against the cracked asphalt as the park roared around me, rides spinning wildly, music blaring from broken speakers, laughter twisting into screams. The blue glow led me straight toward the roller coaster, its rusted metal frame towering like the skeleton of some ancient beast. The light came from the control booth, a small glass room perched near the coaster's base. As I drew closer, the air grew colder. Frost formed on the glass, and the hum of electricity filled my ears. Inside, a console flickered weakly. Monitors that should have been long dead were suddenly alive, showing static and flashes of distorted images, burning rides, crying children, the clown's face twisting in agony. And then, among the static, a message appeared on one of the screens. Finish the ride. My heart hammered. I reached out and touched the console. The second my fingers met the switch, the entire roller coaster shuddered to life. Gears screamed, chains rattled, and the first cart creaked forward from the shadows. It stopped right in front of me, open, waiting. No, I muttered, shaking my head. This is insane. But the air around me began to distort, the fog thickening, the temperature dropping so fast my breath turned white. Behind me I heard the clown's laughter again, closer now, echoing from everywhere at once. Your turn, Ethan, he called out. Every guest gets one last ride. The shadows began to close in, their whispers growing louder, almost chanting. The words were hard to make out, but I caught fragments. Ride stay forever. I didn't have a choice. I climbed into the cart and slammed the bar down. The coaster jolted forward violently, dragging me into the darkness. The first drop hit like a punch to the chest. My stomach lurched as the cart plunged into a tunnel lined with flickering lights. Every few seconds, the bulbs revealed flashes of faces, laughing children, performers, and the clown himself, distorted, screaming, burning. The tunnel twisted. The tracks glowed faintly beneath me, blue sparks shooting out as the cart gained speed. Wind roared in my ears, but it wasn't just wind. I could hear voices mixed in whispering my name. Ethan, finish it. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. The tracks wound through the ruins of the park, except it wasn't how I'd seen it before. It was whole again. Bright lights, music, people laughing, children running, Dreamland alive and beautiful, untouched by decay. For a moment it felt real. Then I saw the fire. Flames erupted from the far side of the park, spreading fast. The air turned hot, smoke filling my lungs. Screams replaced the laughter. The roller coaster I was on burst into flames ahead, but the cart didn't stop. It plunged straight into it. Through the fire, I saw him, the clown, not a ghost this time, but alive. He was holding a little girl, crying, trying to lead her out of the inferno. A beam collapsed above them, and then I understood he hadn't caused the fire. He'd tried to save them. But when he failed, when everyone died, his soul had been trapped here, twisted by guilt and grief until he became the monster haunting Dreamland. The cart screeched around a bend, sparks flying. The ghostly clown appeared ahead of me, standing on the tracks. His paint was smeared, his eyes hollow. You see it now, don't you? He said softly. They left me here. They forgot us. But Dreamland remembers. I met his gaze. You don't have to keep them here. You can let them go. His face twitched. Pain, confusion, something human breaking through. They're all I have left. The cart slowed to a stop before him. I reached out, hand trembling. Let them rest, and you can rest too. He stared at me for what felt like forever. Then, for the first time, his smile faded. The lights of the park flickered wildly, and the blue glow from the booth surged into brightness, pure and blinding. The air exploded with sound, laughter, screams, fire, and then silence. When I opened my eyes, I was outside, standing in the empty parking lot. The park was gone, not destroyed, not decayed, just gone. In its place was an open field under the pale morning light. My phone buzzed weakly in my hand. Battery 98%. Time 6 a.m. I turned back one last time. In the distance, faint and ghostly, I could hear the echo of a carousel tune, soft, almost peaceful. And for a split second I saw a figure on the horizon, a clown waving gently, before fading into the dawn. Dreamland was finally at rest, at least, I hoped so. Because as I walked away, I noticed something odd on my jacket sleeve, a tiny red balloon sticker I didn't remember putting there. And when the wind blew, I could have sworn I heard a whisper, "Come again soon."